All right, we already had the first tournament of Chapter 7 Season 3. So in this, I want to go through the meta. What are all the best pros using weapon-wise? Where are they dropping? All the other kind of fancy stuff as well. All right, so unfortunately, we've not had a set lobby. There was the performance evaluation. That was the one cup that's happened so far. And the finals of it on both EU and NA ended up getting cancelled because they weren't working. So I have to work through some of the opens games, which is a little bit more W key. However, one of the main things I want to talk about when W keying is the loadouts. As you can see, Teeny has the Stinger SMG, and guess what Shark is carrying? Also the Stinger SMG too. So the meta that almost every single pro is using right now is just the Stinger SMG, in particular for endgame. Of course, in more surge stat games, you might need a different weapon in the mid game, but if you're going to carry an assault rifle to get tags, almost every single player is dropping it going into endgame to then take a Stinger SMG or a medium or small ammo weapon if possible. Also, you just saw there, Teeny had a purple striker pump and he dropped it for the chaos. Let's be honest, everyone's still taking the chaos. The striker pump, even since this, I think even since this, I can't remember, has been buffed. The pull-out time's way better. It's way faster. You can kind of, it's basically the same as the iron pump now. Everyone is still just using the chaos shotgun anyway. So the main loadout is just going to be chaos and Stinger SMG for W keying and for end games. One thing you may notice, Chug Jug here, there's a Chug Jug there, kind of behind Shark. There's one here, there's one here, there's one here. There's a lot of Chug Jugs. There is currently a bug. I'm not sure if it's been fixed. Obviously, it wasn't fixed for this tournament. I'm not sure if it's after, where the Chug Jugs were free from vending machines, which is very, very funny. Now, they're actually only 750 gold normally. So being free obviously was insane, but it's still very easy to get 750 gold. Like, I find like every single time I'm off spawn, I'm at least at somewhere around like 1,000. So, you know, you can still pretty consistently buy Chug Jug because it seems like they're in every single vending machine. So despite the fact that they're free, and obviously both of them, you know, there's 4 in their inventory spread across them right now. Despite this, this is still absolutely the meta going forward, regardless, even if they're free or not. All right, so one of the things that I anticipated would become the W key meta in my main channel video, if you watch that where I rank every single item, is the boots, which as you can see, Teeny is using. So the loadout that they're carrying on top of all this, the chugs and all that is, well, Teeny has the boots and then Shark has the nades. And now the way that they start this fight is really interesting. You can see he gets shot, kind of hits the barrels to get up, and then you could crouch and slide. So you basically just like tarps and take height like this. But also you can see the way they've started this then is that because Teeny wrapped around the side, he's created a really nice pinch. So you can basically just use the boots to not only take height, but get around the backside. And then from those angles, that allows you just kind of set up and, you know, spray and pinch. And that's kind of how they do most of the fights anyway. Okay, I am starting to think that the Stinger SMG needs a nerf. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like the bleed through damage on this gun is just so insane. Shark managed to get one. Teeny's in. Get the box. So yeah, that really quick pinch that you can use with the boots. And then, of course, with the high fire rate of the Stinger SMG being instantly broken, the fact that pro players and almost newbies also just hit every single shot of 100 or 150 with the chaos. The W key meta is basically all of this. Also, I forgot to mention there, Shark is carrying nades. So they're not both carrying boots. Shark's carrying nades. So yeah, I'll see what he does with the layer. All right, so he flies in with a nade, slides up, jumps on the right-hand wall. Very nice. Beautiful piece. Absolutely sniffs up Smiley, hits the max. Once he gets this wall here, now this, you know, he cones and grabs the wall on the backside to cut off. Now, firstly, this guy does not have a chaos reloader, very importantly, but you kind of just have to assume that everyone does and play it like you do, which means scroll wheel resetting is now way stronger. I say now, it was in the last season as well, but something I don't think I've actually talked about in a video yet. So he insta scroll wheel resets this wall, which makes Salt shoot him here, so he holds it. Now, if Salt had a chaos reloader, he is now absolutely screwed because, like, say if he just had like an assault rifle or whatever, Shark can do whatever edit he wants after this because the time between shots is almost like 2 seconds with the chaos reloader. So, you know, scroll wheel resetting in this meta where everyone just hits 150 or whatever gives you the freest shots. Nothing new, obviously, but I just really want to highlight the fact that if you're a good mechanical player, you should be scroll wheel resetting as much as possible to try and bait other players out to give them pump delay. Because, like, here's like a really good example where Shark doesn't do this. So he's, you know, on the wall, tries to get the cone in. I don't know what he's trying to do. Spraying. Bit of a stinky left hand edit. Now he's resetting, trying to bait out the shot again here. You see jumps up double pieces. And in this scenario, like, when everyone has these pumps, you just can't be 50-50ing. Because from this angle here, he kind of jumps in. How do you, like, reset the floor here? That'd be great. But they just trade and like both hit the exact same damage because this obviously the body shot of this is 145 max, so they both just hit like a 145 off the rip or whatever. They're both at the same HP now. I don't know if it was exactly the same shot. And now, like, despite the fact Shark obviously has the piece, he's not really at a massive advantage here whatsoever because you're just traded. So you really have to try and avoid trading as much as possible, and doing like some sort of scroll reset and trying to bait out the other player is just the easiest way to do that. Also, shout out Epic. Look at this T. Got it at the summit. It's absolutely banging. One thing I do think is very funny though is every single time you get a kill here, everyone just drops a bunch of chugs, right? Yeah, manages to go on the bottom, gets the knock, full pieces at the body, And there's just like more chugs flying out. Obviously just because of the bug. Also, if it looks like I'm crying, I've just sneezed 13 times in a row. I'm not upset, honestly. I'm just not crying. A self-admission? No. Things with this meta, you know, just getting in kind of is, I'm not going to say the best play. That's not the way I want to word it. But like here, this guy's not paying attention. And Tini just runs into the SMG. You just hit 150 every single time with his pump at least. And then you just get a free kill. Obviously, they pinched and just ran in and had like good angles and stuff. But at the same time, like this meta is very Tini and Shark related. Like I really like the fighting for these guys is going to be so unbelievably good in finals because they're very much so just like get in box and quick dead someone kind of players. Also, really importantly, I'm sure most people know this by now, when you're using the boots on water, it doesn't overheat. So it does have charge and also has heat. The heat doesn't change when you're in the water, so you can use it infinitely until it basically runs out of ammo. And I actually think you do get more distance out of like the use than you would out of a shockwave grenades or the overdrive grenades, sorry. I think if you're actually just keying or just playing storm, like I do think the boots are better. I honestly, you know, still think the nades are going to be for like super stat games. They're going to be the meta. But for W keying, if you're playing in storm, the boots are just so unbelievably good. Of course, you can also heal as you use them. So like you can move quick whilst healing. I think there's going to be some tech in end games where you're going to be like pop medkits and then like run back with them for a heal off and things like that as well, which is going to be super nuts. Another thing, of course, mending machines are always good, but another thing that like a lot of people are forgetting right now because everyone's talking about like the Chug Jug are so good. This mending machine, or not mending machine, it's vending machine. I can't remember which one it is. It's not weapon-o-matic when it has this lamb on the head. Gives you mobility items. Now, it doesn't give you every single one in every single match, but Tini obviously has low boots usage, so you can just buy another boots there. I didn't see how much it cost, but what I'll do is after this, I'll go into a comp match and just have a look through. And I'll splice this in here. In this game, Shark also bought the boots as well. So, you know, they're really not trying to play endgame. They're just W keying double with the boots. So, yeah, as you can see for the mending machines, of course, a Chug Jug's now 1,000. Okay, so they actually changed it from 750, but that's still pretty good. Bigs are only 250. So, you know, if you have 1,000 gold, you might as well just get a Chug Jug rather than three bigs or whatever. My maths is obviously adding up there. Another thing is you can also buy a lot of ammo. You know, it gives you 100 ammo for 100 gold, which is definitely worth it if you land a bummy drop spot. And the special-o-matic, of course, here. So there's EMPs, which you don't really... I mean, no one really cares about in this instance. You can't throw them at mending machines anymore. I mean, I've tried. Maybe you need to throw lots of them. I'm not sure. You can get a pulse scanner. Interesting. You can get pulse scanner in comp. I don't think that's intentional, of course. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. That's the one that scans all the enemies around you. And then, of course, the 7 sliders are only 500. So from chests, there's a 100% chance you get gold. Almost 50% of the times you get 100. So in order to get 500 gold, you really need to open like 5 chests. So you can basically guaranteed get yourself some 7 power gloves. Not power gloves. The sliders. That's what they're called. Just by opening a few chests, having enough gold, and then rotating to mending machines. You can also see from this one here, there's also a chance you can get overdrive grenades here instead of the EMPs, which is way more useful. I mean, if they just remove pulse scanners from these and just put the overdrive grenades in instead so that all of them have 100% spawn rate, that'd be great. So if you have somewhere in your drop spot that has mending machines, you basically have some guaranteed way of getting mobility. A lot of people are already complaining about you can't really get much from chests. Go to a mending machine, vending machine, special-o-matic, whatever it's called. Assyrian has all of the weapon stats, so you can actually go into like each tournament. So this is the performance eval from yesterday on EU, and you can break down the weapon stats which everyone are actually using. So of course, number 1 was the Chaos Exploder. So, you know, a lot of people were saying that this gun isn't that strong. It's number 1 on damage. As you can see, player damage 1.4 million in comparison to the Ranger pistol, which is second at 1 million. Now, this has been nerfed since. I need to see if this was nerfed before NA. I'll check that in a second. So yeah, it was still the number 1 most used gun. Unsurprisingly, number 1 most used shotgun was the Chaos Reloader. I love the Ranger pistol. I think the Ranger pistol is probably the best overall weapon. Of course, like I said, the Stinger SMG is really good in endgame, but like a gun that you can carry from start to finish, the Ranger is so good. Personally, like I said, I've been having it as my favorite weapon. You can also see more players are carrying it, right? 32,000 pickups for this in comparison to 11,000 of the Stinger SMG. You can also check like the damage per pickup is so much higher with the Chaos Exploder, right? 32,000 pickups and it does 1.4 million damage, whereas this one's been picked up 46,000 times and did 1 million damage. So, you know, damage per pickup is way higher with the Chaos Exploder. So you can tell like the value you're getting out of this gun is just so much greater. So yeah, right after that tournament, of course, the one we watched in the EU, then the Chaos Exploder got nerfed. Yes! This gun was so annoying. I haven't actually played with this yet, so all of this analysis will just be based on what I see on NA, which we're going to watch in a second. So the explosion was nerfed down to 6. The build damage from the explosion was to 10. Actual range was decreased. The headshot multiplier was decreased. The fire rate was nerfed. The recoil recovery. Oh, so it has worse recoil as well. So basically, this gun was just made way worse after the EU Cup. And now this is the stats for NA. So if you look at actually how different it is now, you see this is completely different. So the Ranger pistol is now number 1. Had, 1.2 million. And the Chaos Exploder rifle is all the way down here. So the nerf did massive damage, a difference, right? It moved from 1, 2, 3. It was what, like the first used, and now it's the most 5th used weapon. So still actually like was still pretty valuable. Like it's still a pretty good gun, but now it's like nowhere near as annoying to use. So most people are running the Ranger pistol. Again, it's the best overall pistol. Most people W keying, and in the end game, ideally you want the Stinger SMG. Still a lot of usage from the Flex SMG as well. As you can see, it is there. It's not really used as much. I guess if you just want an SMG, you can take any. Sometimes you don't get like a good Stinger. Stinger is definitely better. Burst still putting in some good damage too. And of course, like the main talking point is if we scroll down here, you'll see, no one's using the Maven. No one's using this. Sorry, that's the Mythic. Sorry, I meant the extending. Actually, more people using the extending than this, but I guess a lot of this is probably off spawn. No, you don't want to carry these guns into late game by any means. The Lance Head pistol, if we scroll even further down, is way less used. The Striker Pump. What? Is that an error? That is an error. Okay, there's an error there. It's in twice. I was going to say, holy, maybe that must be the Mythic maybe or something like that. I was going to say, there's no way it's that far down. That's probably the Mythic one, so you can ignore that. So basically, the least used item that's currently in the meta, hunting rifle, that's unsurprising. No one's hitting any damage. There's another one there. Is a Lance Head pistol. And the Lance Head pistol, again, as I kind of mentioned, damage per second on this is actually really good if you watch my main channel video. But because you have to, continually spam the trigger to like hit, it's not automatic. Almost nobody is using it. Like it's barely being picked up at all. I imagine a lot of this will be endgame. I would never take this weapon. Especially when the Ranger pistol is literally, I'm scrolling far too much. Literally the best weapon. All right, I'm going to do a full video on the POIs, the best drop spots, and the map generally later. This right here is the drop spot tool. Shout out to Syrian. This is a super sick feature. So I've gone into the tournament, the NAC Eval Cup. These spots here, whether they're red, are the spots where most players are landing. Now, this is really interesting. I was going to say that the most players are landing here. How many is that? I guess it's 234. It's not actually that many players. Maybe it's just, they had some teams in this lobby that wanted to land there more than others. But when you actually look at the map, that's not even a POI. It's just this mountain here onto this hill. We also tried to land up in this area in a couple scrims. What a horrible decision. It was so contested. Same, I've not tried to land down there either. But yeah, there's some like insanely con spots that are just not even POIs right now, which is interesting. Again, I'll do a full video on the map later on in the week. But right now, for some reason, that one hill, don't land there. So one way to find good strats at the start of a season, if you never know, is to look through the leaderboards and find teams who have really low eliminations. So I think I saw one there. Drizzy and Pete Itzoy got 27 elims in across all of their matches. Here's another good example from that exact team, right? You can see loot, not that great. They kind of scuffed. Basically, a lot of the loot path was taken and cut off from them. They just made sure they got a lot of mats. And then you just rotate in Storm over to mending machines. Kind of the same as we've been seeing most of the season already. And because everything's so cheap, you can get bigs, you can get med kits, you can get mobility items here. So as long as you have like some chests to get enough gold, you can always kind of recover the game from a mending machine somewhere in Storm. And the chances of like them buying out all the bigs, buying out all the mobility is pretty low. So another thing that they've done is that they've just carried one of these vault key cards throughout the vast majority of this game, right? They're like scuffed off spawn. They've decided, you know what, we're going to go all the way in. I actually did see how many of these there are on the map. One sec. So none of those websites have the actual locations, but I think this is all of them I've seen so far. I found, can't remember where. There's 2 of these. I don't know if there's a 3rd vault here anywhere that has the key card one. And then obviously these are the smaller little ones that just give you a single chest. These aren't really worth going for unless they're in your drop spot, because in comp, you only have a single rare chest in them, unless they're at your drop spot. But I wouldn't carry the key unless you're totally scuffed. The gold ones are definitely worth carrying if you're going to rotate that way. Anyway, so the camp, they go down, make sure no one's camping down there, which everyone always does. And then inside of here, so if you're scuffed, there's like 1 chest, 4 barrels, 2, how much we got? More barrels. There's only 3 chests in here, to be honest with you, so it's not that great. One is a rare chest, of course, and then they have like 7 barrels, so it's not as good if you play it in pubs, where there's also like some of the sprite chests that I think spawn here. They get some nades. Is it really worth carrying it? I mean, I guess if you have like nothing, if you're like really poor and you want to carry this all the way through, fine, like you might as well, but I don't think it's really worth using like a vault as like a main strategy in competitive really at all. All right, so this is of course an overdrive grenade map. This endgame's kind of dead, so I don't know if I'm going to watch all the way through. However, with overdrive grenades in particular, one thing is everyone kind of knows now to insta rotate, right? Because it pulls this direction. Everyone's watched Sky and Scroll. They know the tips of like how to instantly go, or like hold in the wall and all that kind of stuff. And the main thing you want to do is avoid getting landed on, like someone just landing on your head. They don't actually decide to insta rotate here, despite the fact that they were kind of first, like they could have easily, because probably a lot of these teams are just landed on their heads at the same time. So they actually kind of waited a little bit, waited for a bunch of teams to go, and then you go. Now, one thing you can actually do here is if there's a team near you, you can just listen and wait for them to nade so that you're the one right behind them. The last thing you want is to be the person who goes and someone like goes on your head at the exact same time. time. So as you notice, as the time they're about to throw this, they've just thrown the nade. They're actually last here. So they've not waited until like everyone's boxed up and they're in positions to hold them, but they waited for everyone just to get ahead and then they've naded. So they are technically last to rotate, which might not be ideal, but at least no one now can land on top of them. And you kind of always, I mean, these are some truly terrible grenades, I will be honest, but you do also have to like be very, very not greedy. Like if you have 6 grenades or you have some, you don't just want to just throw one and then slide and try and rotate as far as possible. Once you've landed, you might be able to get like one slide jump of it and then you got to box up and repeat. It's really, really not a good idea to continually try and slide on these really long rotates because someone is just going to shoot you and you're just going to get rinsed of your HP. So nade, stagger, nade, stagger. As you already know, most of the nades are used for the partials anyway. Like a lot of times in end games, like maybe the first moving you use the nades in, and for the ones after that use it for the speed boost. So if you have to overcommit your nades because you're in a bad spot in the partials, that's fine. You don't need to like try and save them for moving zones as much because you can't just tarp and it's a little bit easier then. So main spots you want to use those are like 6th, 7th, and 8th zones. Like this here is exactly why the SMGs in Endgame are so good, right? So like imagine you're carrying like the burst or even the explosive AR, like the chaos AR now, right? Pete's at like 100 HP here. He bangs this guy and watch his HP. Disappears. Insta goes down to 28 HP there. He just gets double sprayed by 2 guys with stingers. So carrying stingers into Endgame or just SMGs generally, unbelievably good. That's all I have to say about that. Right, we also do solo cup, so the PlayStation Cup as well. And I'm on West. I know it's the most competitive region of all time. But that was the only region that actually ended up happening, yeah, slightly after the nerfs, so to the chaos. So just to kind of look at the loadouts, very similar thing that we're seeing here. Chaos, the pistol being first, chaos reloader, shotgun. This right here is the loadout of choice. The exploder also still being a little bit higher than in duos, surprisingly. Maybe the console players just haven't caught on yet. Surprisingly, the Stinger SMG and the Flex SMG much lower, but I just think, again, these are harder to find than the pistol, and of course, these don't have as much range. And then striker pump. So your loadout is going to be Ranger pistol, chaos, maybe a good striker if you don't find it, and if you prefer to box fight with it, and then, you know, Stinger SMGs, of course, over flex, and flex if you don't find a stinger. And for the solo meta also, it's very clear everyone's still carrying overdrive grenades. 174,000 pickups here in comparison to the boots, which if I scroll up has 62,000. Of course, they're probably more common. You're going to pick up twice as many if you want a stack of 6 than you're not going to pick up exactly these, and you might re-pick up other ones. But if you look at equips as well, so that actually using them, 1.5 million for the overdrive, and then 266k. Of course, I guess you don't really pull these out to use them because you're just sliding with them anyway, so maybe those stats aren't really entirely indicative of what players are using. However, I would estimate that most people are still going to use overdrive grenades in solos. Either way, there's probably also some single gun strats you can use just using the 7 sliders, and then also using the overdrive grenades, like both of them, and then just carrying like a pump or just an AR. Hit the like button. I hear it's the healing button, which will make me feel better. Subscribe and have a good day. Peace.